not many people around. Most people think that they're their own most precious possession, not their children. My father knocked me around, I'm not going to knock my kid around. My father didn't pay for me, why should I pay for you? This is the kind of thing you hear in lots of families. These people don't feel like that. Totally different approach, as you can see. And that's what's so moving, I think, about this book. My son is my most precious possession. I have nothing in the world compared to my son. I must know what he was reading. I cannot ask him. He's worried. How did he come to meet your father in the library? What's going on? I was very still and said nothing. I realized I was sitting on top of an explosion between Danny and his father. How long would Rep. Sanders remain silent about his son's visits to the library? I didn't like the way my father seemed to appear in all this, as if he were conspiring behind Rep. Sanders' back to contaminate his son. I took a deep breath, began to talk slowly, choosing my words. I told Rep. Sanders everything, how Danny had met my father, why my father was suggesting books for him, and that Danny was studying Freud, and Rep. Sanders just sat there. I saw his lips move beneath his hand, and I heard the words psychology, Darwin, and then a moan. What can he do? He said to himself. I can no longer speak to my own son. What can I do? Master of the universe. Oh, so many troubles, pain. I was very moving portrait even of Danny's father, which you don't like. Well, the problem comes as the history develops after the war is over in chapter 10. They find out, you get the breakout from St. Lo, you see. We're following D-Day in chapter 10, and then as time goes on, they learn about what happened to the Jews in Europe. That comes in chapter 11 after the Battle of the Bulge, you see, chapter 11, Battle of the Bulge is taking place. All this is going to take place against the background of the end of World War II. Chapter 11, for instance, we get patents break out in the Saar area, and then they come upon the concentration camps. So in the end of that chapter, if you look towards the end, 2 pages from the end again, I just couldn't grasp it. The number of Jews slaughtered had gone from 1 million to 3 million to 4 million, and finally we realized 6 million had been killed. How could this have happened? And they go on about the pain that they're feeling as a result of that. My father blinked his eyes. Reb Sanders said it was God's will, he echoed softly. You're satisfied with that answer, Reuben? No, I'm not satisfied with that answer. We cannot wait for God. A madman has destroyed our people, our treasures, and so on and so forth. So towards the end of that, I think it seems to me that Reuben even goes to live in Reb Sanders' house for some reason. In any event, just to finish up before we talk about the exam, the rest of this book is about how Danny's father, because of what he's seen, becomes very active in the agitation to start the State of Israel. You know, the State of Israel was born in 1948 with the UN resolution. And in 47, 48, the Arab-Israeli war started. The British authorities were supposed to be controlling things in the Middle East. They weren't doing an effective job. Both sides were involved in terrorism. The British finally were ready to pull out. The UN tried to step in, something like in Iraq or in the Sudan, were unable to step in. 2 sides began to fight it out. And meantime, Reuben's father is giving speeches in New York. Danny's father disapproves of all these things. He thinks this is all secular things. God has to do things, not men. You just wait for God to do things. You don't do things yourself to alter the situation. So from that moment on, he orders Danny not to speak to Reuben anymore. And the whole area where they go to school now, they're going to high school together, is split. And in the lunchroom, the 2 sides don't even sit with each other. They don't talk to each other. Apparently, Reuben's father's given a big speech at Madison Square Garden, and Danny's father's heard about it. So they split over that. And it's very painful because by this time, Reuben really does like Danny a lot. And finally, after all said and done, after the war in Palestine is basically over, after the state is established, I guess, the end of chapter 16 at the end, that was all he said. Not a word about Zionism, not a word about the silence he had imposed on Danny, nothing. I found I disliked him more than when I left him when I had entered. I did not see him again that July. This is when I think, he sees Reb Sanders almost for the last time. But at some point here, at the end of the book, Reb Sanders explains to Danny Reb Sanders explains to Reuben why he treated Danny the way he did. As he says at the very end here, last chapter, he was talking to Danny through me.